That's right, folks. Today I'm painting War from the Other's 7 Deadly Sins, the Apocalypse expansion. Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. Hope you're having a good day. So this guy is primed with Dragon Red from the Army Painter because his skin was mostly red and I wanted to have a nice base coat to paint over. And I rarely use this primer, so I figured let's give it a try. Alright, so we're starting off with a unique paint from the Army Painter's Zombicide Invader paint set, Pale Skin, and this is just for his head. Now it is pretty opaque, and you might want to use 2 or 3 coats of this, especially if it's a little watered down, just to make sure that the red doesn't pop out. But I mean, if you use a lighter color, I'm sure it will only take less coats to put on. Alright, now we're going to use some Kobold Skin from the Army Painter, and this is going to go for some parts on his chest, his back, on his sides, as well as his, legs. Alright, so now using the large Masterclass dry brush, I use Kobold Skin again, just to go over some of the spots that's going to be the red skin. And it doesn't matter if you get some on the other spots right now because you're going to paint over that. But I wanted to highlight some of the muscles that were coming out with that skin color. And then I used the small Masterclass dry brush just to get into the spots where I couldn't reach with that big one, including like his shoulders and that. This is a good one. We're going to come later on to put the tone on. Just to give it a different look and feel of those muscles. And then we move on to Matte Black from the Army Painter, and this is just for these little opening mouths that he has on his body. And I actually forgot to do the canister on his back at this time, but I will come back later and paint it. I was looking everywhere, I was like, is there more in this? And I was like, I needed to use Matte Black for something else, but no, I forgot to do that canister. Now we're going to do his robe with some chaotic red. Now in the artwork you couldn't see the color of this part. I looked everywhere online. I looked in the on the cards as much as I could. I could find where it was showing off. So it was I think it was a darker brown, but I wanted a reddish brown. So chaotic red was a perfect choice. Now it was a bit watered down, and so I just did a couple of layers of it. Applied it a few times and it gave good coverage with it. Alright, now we're moving on to some Filthy Cape from the Army Painter, and this is just for all the armor plates that he has around his waist and his legs. I didn't want to go with a shiny color here, I just wanted to have it look old and ragged, so having a matte color was a lot better than having a shiny color for these pieces, and with the wash later on comes out really nice. Alright, now we're using some leather brown from the Army Painter, and this is going to be for the things holding on his gun, so like his wristbands, and on the other side too he has like these leather wrist thingies, so I put the leather brown on those. Alright, so here comes the first time I use this fairy dust, which is an effects metallics paint. So I mixed it in with the leather brown because I wanted this armor to be a little bit more shiny, and it was gritty, so it was like I wanted a dark brown, but I didn't want to use like rough iron or like copper or bronze. I wanted it to have like sort of a woodish look but with a shine to it. And so what this fairy dust does is you mix it into the paint and it gives it a glitter to it. Now I could have dry brushed the fairy dust afterwards. So after the wash, I do this after off of camera. I'd come back and do another little coating, a quick little coat of the leather brown mixed with the fairy dust just to give it back a shine. But this is a great little effects paint that if you want to create armor in different colors and you don't have the metallics color paint set, it's pretty cool. Alright, now we're going to be using some dark stone for that big blade of his. I found that it wasn't metal, it was used, it looked cringy, so I went with a darker color. And I also use this for his hooves on his feet. Alright, now we're using a Mettalics paint called Rough Iron from the Army Painter, and this is going to be for all the chains that War has across his body. Alright, we're going to mix that fairy dust again, but with some desert yellow, because I don't have the type of gold that I wanted for these worn out belt buckles and some other parts, like all the machine gun belts or the bullet belts or the bullet thingies that he had across his body. So I went with desert yellow and fairy dust mixed in together, and it only takes about 1 or 2 drops of the fairy dust for about 2-3 drops of the actual paint you want to mix to get it that shine. Alright, so I come back to that Kobold Skin because I forgot I want to do the little teeth on these creatures that he has. Also some of the spots where he has like those black mouths, they had like little teeth showing up. And I also did the nails on his hands as well. Alright, so we're moving on to a Mettalics color called Night Scales from the Art Painter. This is from the Mettalics Colors paint set. And I thought this was more of a grayish, brown, black, silvery color. It is blue. Very dark, dark blue. Kind of weird. It's not at all what's written, like what it shows on the bottle itself. But I was already starting to paint it, and I said, well, I'm going to stick to it. I could have painted over it, of course, but you know what, it ends up looking not so bad in the end. Alright, now I'm using another Mettalics color called Tainted Gold, and this is for some of the tubing that he has sticking out of his stomach and his back. I wanted these to shine and pop a little bit more, but not be like silver or something else that he already has on him, so I really wanted to differentiate these pipes. And here's where I realized, oops, I didn't do that canister on his back with the matte black, so I am back with that. Well, that was a lot of matte black back. And I covered it all up with that color. Of course, since it's a radioactive canister, you gotta have some poisonous cloud from the army painter. Now this is not an effects paint, this is really just a paint, but it was very clear, so it was hard to get on in there. I should use a really tiny brush, but I got it in and it looks good. Now we're moving on to flesh wash, and of course this is for all his flesh. Now if I hit some of the other parts of the miniature with it, it's not a big deal. I didn't care if it got into some of the chains or some of the tubings. It was really to try and just hit the flesh though, mostly to get into the nooks and crannies, to also have that dry brushing I did at the beginning come out as well. Alright, the next Quickshade tone I'm going to be using is Mid Brown. I think this is the first time I actually used this wash, and I use it on his shoulder pads there, so that's why I wanted it to be a little bit more like dirty and grungy looking, and I use it also on his wristbands and stuff like that, and some just little parts here and there. I move on to some dark tone now, and this is to get pretty much all the rest of the miniatures, so all the gun belts, all the armor platings, everything else that I probably missed with the other wash. And just as I thought I was done, I forgot the little eyes on his hands, so I used some Deamonic Yellow. And there you go, war is ready for the table and to fight the heroes in the others. Finished off the base with some skeleton heads and stuff like that. Had some fun with this one. I hope you enjoyed the video. Hit that like and subscribe. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next time.